Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages over the age of 21. Uh, it's been 50 episodes of the Whiskey Library reviews. Um, it's been a lot of fun. And I figured I'd talk about something kind of maybe a little bit special today. Well, I have mixed feelings about it, but we'll get to that. In the meantime, if you like what I do, you like to see more, you like to support this channel in a more concrete uh, sort of way, I've got links in the description down below to my Spreadshirt shop, where I have t-shirt designs that are meant to offset the cost of the Virginia Whiskey Champion Trophy, which is going to be a Peter Jefferson Cup engraved with, sorry, my brain is out to lunch, engraved with Virginia Whiskey Champion and 2026. And also, I have these. These are rollerball pens. I also have ballpoint twist pens, but I put that pen away, which was a mistake. Those are for sale on Etsy. I also have pens made of other fascinating, mostly domestic hardwoods. All that out of the way. What am I talking about today? I'm talking about birthday bourbons. Multiple. Because I have two. So, this one is the 2021 Old Forester birthday bourbon. This one is the sort of the usual or more usual 12 years old, bottled at cask strength, 52% alcohol by volume, 104 proof. So maybe not cask strength. I'll just read the little card thing that came attached to it. Old Forester annually releases an expression of its highly acclaimed bourbon to celebrate the September 2nd birthday of its creator, George Garvin Brown. Garvin with a G. Sorry, can't read. This year's birthday bourbon marks the 21st limited edition release, selected from a single day of production and hand-selected by master distiller Chris Morris and master taster Jackie Zykan. Zykan? This limited edition small batch bourbon is vintage dated, offering a one-of-a-kind character and flavor profile that will never be replicated. Exciting. Like I said, 12 years old. These are always 12 years old. This one is 104 proof. This one is a 2025 Old Forester birthday bourbon. Again, 12 years old. This one is bottled at 46% alcohol by volume or 92 proof. Let me read the little card. The first paragraph is the same. Selected by Master Distiller Emeritus Chris Morris and Assistant Master Distiller Caleb Trigo. This 25th vintage release of birthday bourbon draws flavor and complexity from a variation in the production process. Normally a setback, man, my brain really is out to lunch and I really can't read. Normally setback is added to the mash before fermentation to ensure consistency across each batch. In this case, the distillery was coming off a scheduled shutdown, so setback was unavailable. Our proprietary yeast reacted differently in this sweet mash and created a silky, sweet flavor profile at 92 proof. Now, I'm going to start by saying that birthday bourbon is the Old Forester birthday bourbon is amongst a fairly interesting category of sort of hunted bourbons. Weirdly kind of falls into the category of like people talk about it strangely because the like real hardcore hunters are like, oh yeah, birthday bourbon, whatever. But it has its own cachet. There are people who specifically look for the birthday bourbon every year. I managed to get the opportunity to buy it, and so I did. In 2022, it cost me $135. 2025, it's a $200 bottle. And there was some consternation amongst bourbon enthusiasts when it was announced and details were released that it's only 92 proof. Oh, it's a sweet mash, so it won't be the same. And I'm gonna be really honest. A lot of these guys, I don't think could tell the difference. If you poured them side by side blind, I bet you they might go, this one feels like it's higher proof. This must be the 2022. And they may be right, or they may not be. You see, the thing about whiskey tasting is a lot of it is informed by what you have in front of you and the money you have invested. Let's take a look at the 2022. Obviously, it's been open for a little while, and it is interesting. Hold on, let me dope check myself. Yeah, this is the 2022, and yeah, I can tell them apart. I've got a secret for that, and I'll tell you in a minute. So this one is on the nose. It is just oak, and that's one of the things that is a problem with high age statement bourbons. Corn isn't a terribly strong flavor unless you're getting into the heritage grains, which more distilleries should do. The folks at Highwire have the right idea going with that Jimmy Red. It makes for a really good bourbon. It's a corn that provides flavor. A corn that most of the big guys are using is a sort of engineered for highest yield, not necessarily for flavor. Most water efficiency, not necessarily the most flavor. And so what you get is bourbon really leaning hard on the flavoring grain and the influence of the barrel. And this is a great example of how much barrel influence you get in 12 years. Because, literally, I don't get any grain flavor on the nose of this. It is just sweet oak, a little bit of char, but it's just that caramel, vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, that bitter tannic note. And it's kind of a shame, if I'm being totally honest, because I actually kind of like the Old Forester bourbon profile. And I think that stopping short of 12 years makes for a better bourbon. Oh, and by the way, that isn't unique to Old Forester. Um, this stuff is an example of, yeah, it's okay. I think the oak influence is a little bit too much. And I no longer have it sitting right here, but the Weller 12 is even worse. Not worse than this in terms of just being oak influence, but it's, you're hitting, double digit age statement in Kentucky, and you're starting to run into the problem of, unless you have some really ferociously flavorful grains, you're drinking oak juice. Caramel, cinnamon, bitter tannin. The vanilla just drops away entirely, and it loses some of that sweetness on the palate. And it is fairly drying. 104 proof isn't all that high, but the combination of the high tannin, because it is 12 years old and it's just oak juice, and the proof being that moderately high, makes for a rather mouth drying palate. Man, I'm winded for no reason. Hmm. Yeah, it's all caramel, cinnamon, barrel, bitter. A little bit of something that I know is oak because I've split and resawn enough oak, and uh, run it through a saw hot enough to get the like toasty notes out of the oak. There's this sort of like chamomile tea like note, but like bitter, and that's an oak note that just you don't see often, but I get it in here. Now the finish on this, I'm of two minds about because it sweetens and those oak notes, the like sort of bitter chamomile ish note, and the like burnt caramel notes sort of meld and just linger for a little bit and fade away into just like you're chewing on a piece of fairly wet white oak. I don't find it to be terribly inspiring. And I'm just going to go ahead and break this down for you now. Do I like it? It's okay. I mean, one, it's a bourbon. I'm not a real big bourbon fan. Two, it's just over oaked. It's too old. And three, the corn doesn't really show up, so all you get are the oak notes. So it's fine. Do I think it's a good value? No. And and hear me out. I know that it's produced in limited amounts, one time per year. It's that age statement is really up there. It's going to be hard to get. I mean, especially, looking at MSRP. When I bought this, I paid $135 for it. That's at the time I thought was too much. Now I think it's too much. And to be frank, totally and completely honest, I would spend it if I won another lottery chance to purchase. Like I currently am entered in the lottery to get Blanton's, and if I win, I'm gonna buy it. Because it's a way for me to try whiskey that I otherwise wouldn't be able to try. That I can review, and that's sort of the spirit of why I buy a lot of these things that I know I'm not going to be a huge fan of, but might surprise me. Speaking of might surprise me, the 2025. It is 92 proof. It's 12 years old. It is a sweet mash instead of a sour mash. On the nose, it is noticeably muted. And I think that that's the first real, not red flag, but sort of like not concerning. It's the first disappointing note is that on the nose, it's fairly muted. It's a little bit of that sweet, like butterscotch caramel, a tiny bit of vanilla, and a little bit of that, oak spice bitter. And it's underwhelming. And I don't think that that's entirely just the proof drop, because there are plenty of 92 proof bourbons that have big, beautiful noses. This one just doesn't. Now, where this is different is the palate. Way less drying, much more approachable palate. There's a little bit of like floral notes in here. Hair of sweetness, kind of a caramelly sweetness, and then some floral notes, which are nice. They're a change of pace from the chewing on a chunk of oak 2022 edition. This has got some other notes in there. I don't think necessarily that they're grain notes, and they aren't super strong. But there's caramel. There's that vanilla. There are these light floral top notes sort of dancing along the top. And then an undercurrent of like really bitter, like, so there's this. Okay. There's a note in this that is like all the bitter notes of the 2022 condensed, and it is offset by that like bright caramel and those like bright shimmery top note floral notes. If you cut those floral notes even a little bit more, you'd end up with something that would be like almost bitterant level uncomfortable to drink. I know that like describes a lot of things, but I promise it makes sense in my head. There's a note in here that desperately needs these like bright shimmery top notes and that heavy hint of caramel and vanilla, which this just doesn't have as much of. It would just ruin this whiskey if it didn't have them. And the finish on this is noticeably shorter, noticeably sweeter, and is all caramel and vanilla. And that's it. Maybe a hair of like toasted marshmallow in there. But this is a much simpler dram. It's less nuanced. I mean, not less nuanced. It's because there is more nuance to this one. It's less. It is a much more approachable, easy drinking dram, and that is less enjoyable for me, even than this extremely oak bitter bottle. I know that makes zero sense, but I like something that makes me sit and think about it. And this at least tries to do that. 2025 edition doesn't. Which brings me to those three questions for this one. Do I like it? I weirdly only dislike it a little less or a little more than I dislike the 2022. If I had to like give an example, it's that 2022 is here. The 2025 is here. The Ragged Branch Signature Bourbon is up here. Like 22, 25, Ragged Branch. And that's the bourbon. Just saying. It's weirdly, I would say, a better fit for your more average drinker, your less, give me a chunk of oak to chew on bourbon drinker. As for, do I think it's a good value? This was a $200 bottle. That's not, it is not worth that. So when I did the sample, when I went through the blind samples with Randall of Off Topic Whiskey and got to that last one, which was the Sazerac Rye. I think it was either the Sazerac or the Thomas H. Handy. I'd have to look at the paper, which would mean digging it out. And I'm lazy. Yeah, that's not it. I'm lazy, so I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to reveal something. When I thought that was a $55, $60 craft bourbon out of Texas, I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's really like, it's a little bit oaky, but that is pretty good for a $55, $60 bottle out of Texas. If you told me that this was a $55, $60 bottle of bourbon, a bottle like a hair more than a quarter of the cost of this out of a craft distillery, I would have been like, yeah, that's pretty good. That hangs it well in the price point with the big dogs. $200 puts it in a different category of spirit altogether. I've had several $200 bottles of whiskey or samples from bottles of whiskey that are worth that much money, that I would say are worth that much money. This does not meet that threshold. It just doesn't. And I feel like, I mean, and some of it 100% is the price of bourbon went up between 2022 and 2025, particularly like the limited release stuff. And to some extent, that's understandable. The prices for everything went up. But when you're already looking at something that was a bad deal at 135, it's going to be a worse deal at 200. Just flat out. And this has turned into me kind of ragging on some like expensive bourbons that I'm really lucky and fortunate to have had the opportunity to try. But, you know, one of the things that I kind of like doing is talking about how much things like this aren't worth like going way out of your way hunting. I mean, if you're waiting outside of a liquor store at 5 a.m., if you're getting something out of it because you're talking to the guys around you and having a good time, that's what makes it worth it. This does not. And I wanted to say, speaking about this particular or these particular bourbons, it it really is one of those things where if you're chasing that double digit age statement, Kentucky isn't the place. If you're looking for a double digit age statement, it's going to be more expensive because it's people putting way more effort into. I mean, that's not fair to the people in Kentucky. They're putting plenty of effort into it, but like so many other aspects of Kentucky, it just isn't as good. I'm sure Skip will confirm that. But genuinely, like if you want a double digit age statement, in Kentucky, the way they make whiskey in Kentucky, it's not going to deliver the results that you want it to. It's not going to be like nuance. You're not going to have like a balance of like grain and oak. It's just going to be chewing on a chunk of oak. And that's why that third question for both of these is the same. Do I recommend it? No. If you have been thinking about, oh, I want to go, try to buy a bottle of $200 bourbon from, the birthday bourbon, you know, I have an alternative idea for you. If part of the experience for you is hanging out with a bunch of guys, you go to these guys and you go, hey, the best part of this hunt, the best part of like, these allocated events is hanging out and chatting, waiting for the doors to open, making friends, talking about good whiskey. Let's go to one of the local distilleries. Let's go do a tour, get a tasting, talk to the people who are making it. And I guarantee you, you will learn stuff. You will find people who are so extremely passionate about what they do that you will be hard pressed to get them to stop telling you about all the cool things that they're doing. And that's good. You should be supporting that. Not because Old Forester is bad, but because they're a bad value for this stuff. Like the Old Forester signature, the 100 proof, great stuff. It's a decent bourbon, easy drinking. The ugh, everything is dusty. The Old Forester 1910, old fine whiskey, good stuff, pretty good stuff. But I mean, hell, I'd take this over either of these. And this has that added oakiness from being put into new charred oak barrels after aging for the initial aging in new charred oak barrels. I This has turned into a rant. I didn't mean it to. This has gone on way too long, and I need to cut it off. So I'm gonna end this here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in for 50 episodes. And as always, my opinions are mine alone. If you have different thoughts about the birthday bourbons, or even Old Forester in general, or allocated bourbon in general, tell me about it in the description. Not in the description, in the comments under the description. Because part of the fun of doing this is seeing you guys tell me what you guys think. And I always find something interesting in the comment section. Almost always. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.